Taika will always be like, "Dear God, thank you for a wonderful day. Please help me stop thinking about all these kidnappers."
For real? Wait, where does that come from? Does he always think about kidnappers?
He's watching the Taken trilogy.
Always thinking about kidnappers.
We can't go to Romania.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Careful Boys.
Wow.
All right, this one's gonna be a little bit serious. Feel free to maintain the seriousness of it because I think it's a pretty big it's a big question. All right.
So get your hip thrusting out now before you hear the news. Thrust it, thrust it, thrust it, thrust it. Thrust it, thrust it, thrust
When you
it.
go from somebody from behind, one arm here, one arm so they can't move.
Oh.
I learned that from Tony Tran. I learned that from Tony Tran.
And then he turns around and does it back to you.
Oh. Hey, give the crown back. Give the crown back.
No. Keep it where it belongs.
Here's the question. Okay, now it's gonna sound weird. This question. So Christianity's been making a kind of a comeback in society. There's more people are going to church now than like there's a big rise, and they're calling it like a spiritual hunger. Have any of you guys been feeling any type of way, either religion-wise or faith-wise, that maybe that part of your life has been more prevalent or stronger recently?
100%.
Yeah, dude, me too, man. Which is crazy to think.
So ours was kind of like we were doing it before it like became popular again. Okay, so like
You guys were in on early.
Ours was more so
Ahead of the fashion trend, huh?
yeah, ours was more so because we had Taika, and then with Taika, you kind of think about like how do we want to raise him? What are like the morals, whatever, and then you talk about like spiritually. I like grew up with like very Buddhist values. She kind of grew up Catholic, but I also went to a Christian school, so I understand a lot of the teachings and stuff, and ultimately a lot of the religions boil down to similar principles about like what it means to be a good person. So we decided on what we're gonna do is we want to like emphasize being grateful, because if you're grateful, then it's much easier to be happy, because you can be happy in this moment. You don't need to have this in order for you to be happy. Your happiness comes from within. And we want to have some sort of just maybe faceless, non-specific spiritual greater being, and the understanding of like kind of like karma. So that's what we started doing, and we would pray every single night starting from when he was like maybe 3, and we never miss. And we pray every single night, and in his prayers he always talks about all of us go around the room about one thing we're grateful for at least, and then we continue to like pray and like either like bless family or ask God to help with whatever. And that's what we do. And then I think now going into the modern age of like 2024, 2025, where you see so much turmoil in the world. And then I think in the past, you always like sought political structure to be kind of like the anchor for the people. But then now with all the curtains opening up, you kind of realize, oh, holy shit, the political structure is the one causing the chaos, is the one causing the corruption. I thought if I voted this mayor in, the city was going to be dope, but I found out the mayor is the one that's getting fucking back-end payments from this, So now I think that's why there's so many people like, well, what do we do? How do we ground ourselves? What do we have, like, how do we establish our own North Star? And I feel like that's the feeling that made so many people want to become more spiritual so they can have a more like defined path. And so I'm super with that too. And we thought about even going to church like on Sundays and stuff. We just have a lot going on right now, but eventually we probably might find a cool church.
That's really cool.
Turn Taika into a gospel singer.
Oh, happy day.
They're going back to becoming born again, or they're going to like church again and all that. And there's a new kind of style of Christianity and Protestantism that's coming, like evolving, I guess, from all of this. It's like more non-denominational. It is not like a mega church, but it's more like an inspirational, motivational speaker seminar. And they'll use Bible to like Bible verses to like relate that to like how that applies to today in modern life. And I've seen a couple, and I think those are more speaking to the modern individual. Because I think dogma, we don't like that. We don't like strict institutions that are just like pointless and corrupt. But then like people still need community. They still need spirituality. They need some connection to things outside of material stuff. And it seems like that's kind of the trend right now because, like you said, it's been
What about for you personally, though?
for me.
Yeah.
I think I've always had some form of connection, like I had a moment where I was atheist, but I realized atheism was just hating Christianity. That's all it was. It's like all the people that was burned by the church, you had a personal vendetta, and you're like, fuck these church members, so you become atheist, right? Yeah. And then I grew up and I was like, well, maybe I found out the word agnostic, which is like you have a connection with the source. And then I dabbled into so many different.
It's like pleading no contest, basically.
Yeah, and I do think like I'm too naive. Like I don't know. Like it's all faith based, right? So you don't know. But I wish and hope that there is some type of higher being that makes it more than just career, success, purpose in the material world. And then I think like that's what I'm hoping exists, right? That's beyond this flesh and body, and there's more things that like it's kind of like not the meaning of life, but it's kind of like there's more depth to this existence than just consuming. And then so that's why I've always had to connect with something without really putting an institution behind it, but the only way I know how to express it is through the religion we grew up. Yeah. So I would pray, and it's like, and I'm also against praying like it's your personal genie, like asking God. And then I think there's 2 times when people always become born again Christian. Is one when they have a stomach ache and they're shitting. That's one. And then the other one is when they really want something really bad. And I think that's
Or you have a health scare. Please, God, don't let me die right here. Don't let me die on this toilet.
And I'm like, people always become born again Christian when they got diarrhea.
Yeah.
And then the other one is like when they want a gift. They want out of a situation, and I feel like that's like the worst times too.
Yeah, both of those are bad, yeah.
Because it's just like, he's not your genie, right?
But then it is weird that like the Bible does teach you that in those times you are supposed to seek God. So it's kind of like.
Yeah.
Paco will always be like, dear God, thank you for a wonderful day. Please help me stop thinking about all these kidnappers.
For real? Wait, where does that come from? Does he always think about kidnappers?
He's watching the Taken trilogy.
Always thinking about kidnappers.
We can't go to Romania.
If you do believe in a God, right? This is what my stance is. A lot of people think they're the fucking hero in their own story, right? So how would you know if God's purpose for you was to be the hero or the supporting character? You might have just had to be the fucking taxi driver for the hero so they could get to their destination. And then maybe your job was to die. Maybe your job was to fucking walk across the street and then like, I don't know, take out the trash, and then you got hit by a car, but your neighbor was the hero and they were able to see you for a second. You saved their life because they did that pivot and they saw you get hit by a car. And then it's like, but then it's like, there's so many things in this web of life, right? Where like everyone has this main character syndrome. But I think like if you really do believe in a higher power and there's billions of fucking people, then that actually makes me feel good that I'm a little ant in this big space. And one day, like I hope I'm used for a good purpose or whatever it was, but it might be that. It might be insignificant. It might just be like a small little thing, and it's not even like you're not even the king of the universe or anything. But I think everyone wishes to be that. But I actually think that's anti-Christian.
Some of the most like powerful prayers I've heard are when like let's say parents, they lose a kid. Let's say that he grew to 12 or 15, 18, whatever. And then they ask God for, I hope they can teach, like you can teach me the meaning of this moment.
Oof. Yeah.
You know, because they're like, it's like, that is the point. The point isn't to have a genie. The point is like, if God has a plan, whoever your God is, if there is a plan, it's up to him to decide the plan, but you to learn the meaning from it. Yeah. And if you think you're always going to be the main character, then you're definitely not in the right space.
And for knowing that, it gives me a lot of peace. Like, I think it's like your faith is so strong that whatever happens to you, or if you can't control this thing, like if a tsunami comes one day and just fucking wipes out everything, it's like there's a lot of things that's beyond your control. But then you just go like, okay, well, that was a part of the plan. And you just move on. It's hard and it's painful, but I think like that's the way I think I approach spirituality. It's more so like having the strength to endure things rather than like praying for easy things and wishes.
You know what I think also brought Christianity back up is because it was at a low, less people were ministering. And I think people ministering is what gets people to not want to be Christian, to be honest. I think people are not like, because they tell you to do it, regardless of how good you are at it. And the best ministry for anything is just to be the example that people want to copy. And that wasn't around. You just had people down your throat annoying you. And you just go, I don't want to be like you. And I think that's what killed it for like, even Seventh-day Adventists is like, we were that for how many years? And then just the pressure that we were assigned to put onto others. Of course, they're not going to want to be like us, you know?
Yeah, I think it's like bad leadership in the institution. Because if you think about a lot of people that left the church and all that, they usually have an issue with, it's always the people they have issues with. Like they were burned by elders. They were like, church was, spreading gossip, or like they weren't acting very Christian. So I think in most cases, people have issues with the people of the church, not necessarily the religion.
Exactly. And I think that's what brings people back around is that now you've seen almost the product of a very godless society, and you don't want to be part of that shit. And that's what kind of is, I'm not like all the way on the other side again, but I'm facing that way now because I'm just like, I know for a fact I don't want to be like that.
Like I would deal with the gossip than a godless society like that. Yeah.
That's just straight up anarchy.
Right.
I do feel like I've been finding myself personally praying a lot more than usual. I think I would attribute it to like at this particular phase or chapter of life, I'm just like witnessing a lot more of the bookends of both life and death. Right, like we're just of age now where like a baby's on the way, but also like my auntie-in-law just passed away, and that's just going to happen more frequently. I have more nephews and nieces that are on the way or that have just recently been born in the last couple of years, and I also have more, granduncles, grandaunties, aunties, uncles, or people, just older people in my parents' like generation getting sick, and like that life loss is just happening so much more. So when I was younger, absolutely, God's my genie. Yep. I'm asking for shit. I don't know better, and my
Can I have more slammers, please?
And even my intuition today is still to ask for something from God because I don't know what else to do in talking to him. But it's asking. I think the only thing that like helps me understand the navigating of like how to talk to God in my prayers is to ask for something for others. So nowadays I'm finding myself praying for Nina or for this kid that's on the way to just be healthy, or like for my auntie-in-law who just passed, or for my friends that are trying to have a baby and the process that they're going through, or like for my buddy whose dog just passed away type stuff. Like I'm now sending up prayers more than I have in a long time, but I think it's because the things that, because I'm always asking God for something or thanking him for something. That's really the only two things that I ever like find myself having conversations about. But I think it's just beyond asking for slammers or
Did
anything
you grow
nowadays.
Catholic?
So I grew up, my parents are Buddhist, but for some reason I also was always going to Catholic church a lot for like my godparents and stuff. And then nowadays I'm like a ninong to, kids and stuff. So I'm going to, or like my sister also married a Filipino dude who's in a Catholic. So
all the Filipinos in your family are Catholic?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Family's Catholic. Not super religious, but like it's just around me more constantly. So, prayers even at like holiday dinners and stuff like that. I'm just like finding myself more now through just life, praying a lot. And ironically I guess not ironically, but like that just builds a more interesting relationship with God. And I think once that gets now, like even when I was freaking going to Europe recently, their cathedrals are crazy. I had this really funny conversation with Nina. It's like I see why back then like people would go to war for religion. Look at the stuff that inspires them to believe in the possibilities of God. Where like, Christian churches in high school, everybody's trying to minister to me, and we go to some like rinky dink little box because people are doing praise songs in like
a business park.
Yeah.
And you're like shopping mall.
But then you walk into like some small cathedral in like a town in Europe, and this looks like Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Straight up. So it's like I can see how people like truly felt the power of Christ, and it's like I'm just finding myself there nowadays more than.
I just
than
think
younger.
Catholics do things with swag and it's beautiful, and then Protestants just like bare bones. Let's just do it in the warehouse.
The Catholics got the gold trim. For me, I feel like I when I went to Christian school, it made me have a really sour taste in my mouth for religion because I was kind of thrown into it. Maybe the people I was around, I didn't really enjoy their presence, and I saw how they would kind of manipulate and use religion to make you do things or make you think a certain type of way. And as a young kid, I didn't really understand that, so I just went, I don't want anything to do with that. That's bad. I think later in my life, I was around people who were, I think, what you would categorize as like good Christian people, right? They, like what you said, they live, how they live their life is they are Christian and they do the true Christian values without having to be like, oh, you need to do this.
They'll make you feel bad about it. Yeah.
Very judgmental. And I think through that, it really made me realize like, oh, there is a way where you could be a strong Christian or a religious person, but still live that way and not be a hypocrite, right? Because I think that's where we wave our finger at people and say, oh, you preach this, but the way you live your life is very more like something else, you know? And then recently when Tiff was going through her medical stuff and it was something where we kind of like fell to our knees a little bit, like, yo, what the fuck is going on? And we had some really good friends that like prayed for us. And when people would tell you like, oh, I'm gonna pray for you. And I was like, before it would be like, oh, thank you. But then, you know, when you're really going through some shit and you hear someone say those words or they actually pray for you in the moment and you're just like, yo, what the fuck? Like you should realize how powerful that is. Because it's a moment of intentionality and you're trying to help somebody else.
Yeah.
100%. And you realize, and I remember one time you were talking about prayer that you do with your family and how a rule that you guys have, and Anthony touched on it too, is like you always pray for somebody else and what they're going for. And man, like when you start doing that, it really, I feel like you can't help but to be a little bit more spiritual, and you realize that as you get older, and how so many things are not in your control. And I think it teaches you something like Tiff always uses the term. She always says radical acceptance. And you know, when you deal with struggles of life, because life always kicks you in the ass, you're always going to have a level of radical acceptance. And I think prayer and thinking about something else way bigger than you, and you just being like an ant on this planet or whatever, is really humbling, and it makes you kind of think in a different way. And you think about like, yeah, how can I serve my people? How can I serve my community? And I think that's what the true value in like religion and community is, you know? So
I agree. I think we're missing that heavily. And that's what I miss from the church is like you had a specific day that you just didn't do anything but that. And it was an intentional day that everyone got together and we see each other, we praise together, we get to, and then it's almost like a spiritual, emotional, like reset of the week.
Yep.
And then everyone just feels chill, like after the day and prayer and all that. And I'm like, I wish there's something we can do. I guess maybe we'll start our own church or whatever it is that recreates that. But now everything is like, it's done through like money. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like a business around these community.
And that's what makes it feel icky.
Yeah, or like
it can.
There's different things that try to recreate this church feel, but nothing really replaces. If you grew up in that environment, dude, like our religion was pretty low key a gray area cult. But there's so many things that I took away from it that I'm like, fuck, I wish I still raised my kid in that kind of environment. Yeah. Cuz it's like Boy Scouts, motivational speak.
Even knowing that, I would still raise my kid there versus not. Yeah. Even knowing how cultish it could have been. Yeah.
Because it's a lightweight cult. It's not like destructive cult.
It's still harmless generally, rather than like just being out in the world.
It's not
It's like
Branch
Mormon.
Davidians.
No, it ain't. Yeah.
But then also as a parent or a kid who went through that, and you could see the cons of going through that system, you could filter that for you and your family.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think doing the lap is what matters. Yeah.
I guess we're all going to go back to church, guys.
We're going to start our own mega church. Anthony's key minister, dude.
Don't put that on me.
The hot pastor.